Well, hello, you've made it this far. So this is the final presentation for the summit. And my name is Tracey McBeath, which I'm sure you know that by now. And my summit talk is on confidence, breaking through the habit of the insecure self. The reason I'm talking about this is because this misunderstanding really gets in the way of so much when it comes to doing the things we know we need to do to improve our health. I mean, obviously, my focus is on health here. It could be about anything, though. Confidence or lack of confidence, insecurity can show up in many areas of our life, but it really is an illusion. And I want to show you how it works and why it's actually a part of the human experience to have insecure thinking, but how we can step beyond the habit and really step into who we really are as a human being and, embrace the life that we have here. So this is the third summit that I've put together. And I remember when the idea sort of was born that I could do something like this, the first things that came into my mind were, oh no, you don't know how to put something like this together. And what if, you looked silly? What if you put something like this and no one wanted to be in it, or no one turned up, or no one wanted to be a part of it, or all these little stories and thoughts around, what might be possible if I was to step forward and do something like that. And I think that was the first time I really saw that, well, yes, all that is a possibility, but, I really don't know. We never know. Our mind loves to make up stories and tell us what it, thinks it knows. But, I never really knew any of that was going to happen. So I decided to just do it anyway. And, look, I'm so glad I obviously did. But I think whatever is in the way, or whatever looks like it is in the way for you, just stepping back and seeing it for what it is as made up thought. And it's most likely your brain just doing what brains do, which is actually trying to protect you. So this is something that a lot of people don't understand about our human brain. And, we tend to spend so much of our time, living in the things it tells us and living in the stories and the thoughts, and not actually realizing that that is actually quite a habitual negative place to be in. And I'm going to show you a really short clip now that will explain that to you, because when I understood this, I was able to sort of have that light bulb moment of, oh, that's why that happens to me. And it doesn't just happen to me, it happens to everybody. And really, the only difference is whether we pay attention to that or not. So let me just quickly share my screen and play you this little video.
The human mind has evolved to think in such a way that it naturally creates psychological suffering. You see, back in the Stone Age, 200,000 years ago, life was pretty dangerous for our caveman ancestors. So if a caveman or cavewoman wanted to survive, their minds had to constantly be on the lookout for things that might hurt or harm them. And if that cave person's mind wasn't good at predicting, spotting, or avoiding danger, what happened to her? The default setting of the caveman mind was safety first, and we in the modern world have inherited this. Our modern minds are constantly warning us of things that might hurt or harm us. The caveman mind says, watch out, there might be a bear in that cave, you could get eaten. Watch out, that shadow on the horizon might be an enemy from another clan, you could get speared. Our modern mind then does worrying, predicting the worst, avoiding anything that scares you, anxiety in all of its different forms. Back in caveman days, you survive an encounter with a bear or a wolf, then it's useful to replay it. It's useful for your mind to go over the events and remember what you did to survive so that you're better prepared for next time. But in our modern world, we go over and over painful memories, dwelling on them, reliving them, even when there's nothing useful to learn or the lesson has been well and truly learned a long time ago. In the Stone Age era, As a caveman or cavewoman, you have to fit in with the group. If you are alone, you will soon die. So your mind compares you to others in the group. Am I fitting in? Am I contributing enough? Am I following the rules? Am I doing anything that might get me thrown out? Now, in modern life, we're always comparing ourselves to others. But the problem is we're no longer in a small group. Our groups are enormous today, and we carry with us devices that constantly feed us images and stories of people all over the planet. This constant comparison ramps up our fear of being judged or rejected or not fitting in or just not being good enough. The caveman mind tells you you need more food, you need more water, better weapons, better shelter. The cave people who thought this way lived longer and had more offspring. Unfortunately, in the modern world, this manifests as greed, dissatisfaction, craving, wanting. It's never enough. I need more, more, more. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, these Stone Age thought patterns are intensified by the sheer pace and complexity of modern life. Our frantic existence, rushing from task to task, that never-ending to-do list. So, when your mind starts doing this unhelpful stuff, as all minds do, remember it's not defective or abnormal, and it's not deliberately trying to make your life difficult. It's simply doing the job it has evolved to do, trying to keep you safe and save you from pain.
So what did you think about that? Was that something that resonated with you? Everyone I've shown that to is just mind blown, really, because it's just such a simple misunderstanding, but it's just our brains are designed to keep us safe and to look for problems. And, that's just how it works. And when we understand that, instead of fighting it, we can actually thank it and be really grateful for what it's doing and for how it's trying to protect us. And of course, there are times when we need to listen to it, if we're going to be hit by a bus or, safety in terms of when we're out and about in a car or things like that. But when it comes to creating the life we want and stepping forward out of, into change to improve our health, really listening to that is actually what is going to keep us stuck, and it's going to stop us, and it's going to be a really big barrier for change. So when we understand that that's what the mind does, and that most of the, I'm not good enough stories, or I can't do it, or it's I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, I'm not worthy, whatever it is, we all have them. They are the things that we actually need to step away from. They're going to come up. It's going to happen. We can't turn off our brain, right? We can't just decide that we no longer want those stories to be there. But we can absolutely decide that we don't need to pay attention to them any longer. And what instead we can pay attention to is what matters to us in our heart. It is where we want to go, what we value, and what we want to put out into the world. Now, when it comes to our health, you're here, I assume, because you value your health. And health is really something that we all should value, because really our health is what underpins everything we do in life. Without our health, we can't do the things that we want to do, right? So valuing our health is a really, really important thing to do, and really connecting that to why it matters. And that then becomes what we align our behavior to, not these stories or, these fears that, because we have paid attention to them over time, have become a habit. And that's how insecurity shows up as a habit, because our brain spits out these stories, we believe them, we pay attention to them, we ruminate on them. And so it thinks that it needs to keep doing it for our survival. Really, habits, whether it's thought-based habits or behavioral habits, they all stem from the fact that we have innocently done a behavior or had a thought, we've paid attention to it, we've acted on it, and the brain's gone, right, that must be important for your survival. So my job is then that part of the brain that where your habit sits is to send out messages and signals for you to continually do your habit. But of course, we do have something like two brains. So the habit sits in one part, but we have this conscious brain where we actually get to decide whether we act on those or not. So it's seeing that, yes, your mind may spit out a whole lot of insecure thinking, but is it helping you? And is it aligned with where you want to go? Is it aligned with your values? And this is where you get to decide, not your stories. So if this is the first time you've kind of come across this, it's quite not confronting, but it's quite different at first. It's not something that we're taught, but I teach it in all my coaching. It's changed my life, and it's changed the lives of many of the people that I've shown this to as well. So when it comes to confidence, let's look at what it is a little bit more. So basically, what happens when we perceive that we lack the confidence in any area of our life? What actually happens is it shows up as an unwillingness for actually us to do what we need to do. So, for example, when it comes to health, so you've just listened to some incredible presenters showing you the benefit of changing your diet and your lifestyle. If this is new to you, your mind may be spitting out all these stories as to why that's too hard. Oh, I couldn't possibly do that because I have this going on. And I can't do it now because I have all these other things going on. And what if you fail? Oh, what if it's another diet? What if I don't do it? There's all these stories that the brain, will constantly spit out that, while you're giving it attention, it'll keep doing it. So, when it comes to confidence in your health, it's about seeing that, you can learn new information, you can unlearn what you thought, what you used to think. And the only thing that's going to stop you from stepping forward and trying something new is your attention to insecure thinking that will tell you the stories that it's telling you. So, for example, sugar we know is highly addictive, and it's actually highly inflammatory, and it's not something that we want to consume very much of, certainly over a long period of time. So if you're used to eating a whole lot of sugar, your brain is going to spit out a whole lot of stories as to why you can't give it up. And that then shows up as an unwillingness for you actually to do what matters. So stepping out of, these stories is really the first part of moving forward towards your goals and where you want to go. So the interesting thing about confidence is, I find this really interesting. So before the 1970s, because the word confidence comes from the words confides, and really what it meant was that it was a deep trust in you, right? Confidence was a deep trust in yourself to do what mattered, to show up, not knowing what the outcome was going to be, and know that you had within you everything you needed to handle whatever the situation presented itself to you. I'm not sure what happened, but sometime after the 1970s, that kind of all got changed around. And what happened was that confidence became much more aligned with a feeling. So, we couldn't move, we don't have confidence if we have any fear of failure, or we don't have confidence unless we have, an absolute certainty of the outcome. No self-doubt. If we have any self-doubt, we're not confident. So it really took what was innately within us to be something that was, became a feeling. And I find that really interesting because then what happened is we decided that, we couldn't actually act unless we had the certain feeling that looked like confidence, which meant that we could act. And it's very, very similar to something like motivation. Motivation, again, is an internal driver. I mean, motivation itself is actually action. Yet, what we tend to think of motivation is a feeling. So we wait for a certain feeling before we act, or we look for motivation from people or other things out there to create a feeling in here for us to act. And again, like confidence, if we do that, we tend to miss out in life, and we tend to stay stuck, and we don't tend to move towards our goals. And life feels like we're just kind of moving along at like we're in the car with the handbrake slightly on. It's on, we're going, but we're not going really as far as we know or as fast as we know we could be going. So the illusion of waiting to act on a feeling keeps us very small, and it keeps us very stuck. And it actually keeps us from living the life that we want to live. So we look back to when I shared the story about the summit. If I had waited for a feeling of confidence, I never would have done this summit. I never would have put it together. If I had waited for a feeling of confidence, I would never have created my own health coaching business. I never would have written my book, which I meant to show you at the start, and I'll show you now. This is my book that I wrote last year, which is essentially insights showing you where to look and how to access what is innately within you. And confidence is a big part of it, and motivation. Because as I said, it's such an illusion that we look for it in a feeling. Where it comes is aligning your behaviors to the type of person you want to be and the type of life that you want to have. So if we think again back to the summit, I knew that I wanted to create a platform that got the message of hope and possibilities and the potential of the low carb lifestyle out to people. So that was my driver, whether I felt confident or not, because I certainly didn't feel confident. I was full of insecure thinking. I was full of comparison. And of course, I know now, and I did know then too, but I can show you how that is just so normal. When we understand it's not something wrong with us when that happens, that is totally normal. We can see it there. We can accept that it's there, but we absolutely don't need to let it stop us. We can move forward knowing that our behavior is about being aligned to our heart, not where our mind, our habitual problem solving, worrying, anxious, all the things, all the stories, I'm not good enough, all those things that our mind loves to tell us. That is not where magic happens. And that's where, living from that place, you don't get to create the life that you want to live. And I don't know about you, but we've got one shot. And it's not a dress rehearsal. And that's an insight I talk about in my book, that for some reason we tend to think that we've always got tomorrow. Well, actually, you've only got today. And, when you really start to see and thank and let go of all those stories that your mind spits out, you find that you will access what is innately within you, which is this innate ability to move forward regardless of how you're feeling, because confidence can only actually come in action. And when I'm talking to coaches that I mentor who have a whole lot of insecure thought around promoting themselves, well, you can't become better at promoting yourself or talking about what you do unless you do it. So it's really, really important that we act, and we can't explore, we can't create, we can't learn, we can't evolve, and we can't grow unless we act. Thinking about things and having good intentions isn't enough. It has to come in action. So, and beautiful definition of what I see confidence is this: faith in yourself and in knowing that whatever happens along the way, you will deal with it, because you will deal with it. We always do. And an act of faith means you don't know what the outcome will be, but even if you're terrified and full of self-doubt, you still trust yourself to take action and to do what matters. So self-doubt is absolutely built into the human experience. And I really, really want you to understand that. If that's all that you take away from my talk, is that understanding that self-doubt is not just within you, it's within everybody. And the difference between someone who creates their dreams and reaches their goals and someone that doesn't is merely their attention to that self-doubt. If we give it attention and we act on it and we continue to listen to it, we will not get where we want to go. If I had done that, the summer wouldn't be here. The other massive learning for me was last year. And this is where I'm going to bring in and talk to you about someone who I hugely admire, who is Jane Bullen. She is the CEO of the Nutrition Network and co-founder of Eat Better South Africa and the COO of the Notes Foundation. And she is someone who I hugely admire. And last year, I was contacted by the Nutrition Network to be one of the 4 coaches to put together their coach certification program that they now offer to their members. And it was probably the biggest opportunity that I've had in my career to date. And let me tell you that imposter syndrome was hugely real. In my mind, I had a whole lot of insecure thought about not being good enough. Why me? You know, what if they don't like my message? What if they don't this, like that? And I think what I did was I kept asking a lot of questions to ensure that they really were going to be happy with the way that I coached and what I thought was important for coaches to know, because it's actually not probably something that we get taught in any coaching program apart from the Nutrition Network and my coaching program now, because it's something that I've created from many teachers, and I've really had to do, see all this myself. So I had a whole lot of imposter syndrome going on. Now, Jane beautifully stepped in and mentored me. And really what she was able to help me see was that I just had to get over myself. So that one thing, she didn't say that, but that's how I read it. And that's something that I want you to see as well. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, it's all made up. It's all our mind trying to protect us. It's all stories, right? Now, if you want to do and create and you have a message that you want to get out into the world, or you want to achieve your health goals, and you are feeling that insecure thought is holding you back, got to get over yourself. We all have to get over ourselves, particularly women. It has been a men's world for a very long time, and women have come a long way, yet we have a long way to go. And we're still very much held back by not wanting to promote ourselves because of fear of what other people might think, fear of being seen, fear of being criticized, all these things that go on up in here that are actually not true. We won't be evicted from the tribe. We may have people that think differently of us, but that's okay. We are okay no matter what anyone thinks of us. We have to get over ourselves. And imposter syndrome is simply that. If you are trying to be someone you're not, you should be feeling imposter syndrome. But if you are being you and you are showing up to life as best that you can and coming from your heart, you are absolutely where you are supposed to be. And you are absolutely can do whatever it is that you want to do. The only thing that's going to stop you is your attention and your focus on a thought. As I said, self-doubt is built into the human experience, and it's very innocent. It happens to all of us. I mean, how can it not when we understand our brain, our tribal brain in the modern world? So when we can normalize that, we'll be able to step beyond it. So start to normalize it, start to notice it in your day and see it, acknowledge it, then step beyond it. I want to talk a little bit about envy, not jealousy. Jealousy is different. I think jealousy is quite a negative trait. But I want to talk about envy because I think females need to get over ourselves in terms of this as well. And I've seen something, really lovely about how to see envy. I'll share a story with you when I was watching something. It might have been a TEDx talk. It was about 5 years ago. And I'm sitting there and I'm really criticizing internally and externally to my husband about the speaker. She was speaking along the lines of something that, I thought I knew a lot about. And I thought I could probably do a better job. So I'm sitting there watching this lady and, thinking, yeah, I could have said that better and I could do a better job, blah, blah, blah. My husband said to me, gee, you're really negative about this. You're really negative about her. And it kind of made me stop and think that, yeah, I was. And, was I jealous? Well, probably a little bit jealous, but actually, you know what? I was more envious of her. And you know what I've seen around envy? To me, envy is a projection of yourself, of you seeing a projection of yourself of what is actually possible for you. And it's a beautiful thing. And, since I had that insight, I'm able to watch women of all walks of life sharing stuff. And, I drop into this essence of curiosity and see that what they can do it and see what they're doing, I can do it too. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's the universe mirroring back to us what we are absolutely capable of. I think that's a really, really lovely, lovely way of seeing what envy is. Because when we're sitting in judgment, so if you will have watched any of these presentations, you'll be able to think back about notice. I want you to start to notice what your mind says to you. Oh, I don't like what she's wearing or how she's looking, and I know that, and well, that's wrong. When we're sitting in judgment of anything, we're not learning. We're actually totally limiting our capacity to learn. And again, it's a protective mechanism that if we want to learn and flourish and be inspired and have, beautiful, courageous mentors to look up to, we need to step away from all that thought and drop into curiosity. And drop into curiosity of what's possible and know that, you know what? I don't know everything, and neither do you. And this person sitting in front of me may have something to offer me, but I'm not going to hear it if I'm all up in my head and I'm judging. Just throwing that one out there. So often a big part, a big barrier to doing or, putting ourselves out there is that we worry about what other people will think of us. We worry about criticism. Now, this is a really personal one for me because up until I was about 45, I'm 49 in a couple of days, but up until I was 45, I stayed small because of fear of criticism. And it doesn't matter why. I just had a whole lot of insecure thought and habitual thought that looked like I would crumble internally if someone criticized me, whether they were criticizing or not. I would perceive it as a criticism. So for me, it was much safer not to put myself out there than risk being criticized. But what I've seen about not doing that is that it kept me from living and creating the life that I wanted. And that actually the power is always in the eyes of the seer. So we are also under the illusion that we can impact and influence how others think of us, right? We absolutely cannot. All we can do is show up to life from our place, from our heart, from our values, and how others perceive us is not on us at all. We absolutely should take responsibility for what we put out there in the world. But if what we put out in the world only comes from our heart and comes from a place of love and comes from what we've seen, then, that's our responsibility done. How others perceive that isn't on us. And I have to tell you that letting go of that, which wasn't easy, I had a whole lot of deep insecure thinking about that. And it still comes up, but I don't pay attention to it anymore. It's kind of like white noise in the background. It always is up to the other person as to how they see us. And they will only ever see us through the lens, the filter of their own thinking and their own experience. And that's totally, totally nothing to do with you. So particularly in the low carb space, we are going to come across people and with different opinions and people who disagree with everything we talk about and are not interested in, believing something from what they already believe. And that's fine. That is their choice. But that doesn't mean that we don't stop speaking about what we believe because it might upset someone, or it might be butt up against their thought system and what they believe, and that might make them uncomfortable. You're not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for what you bring to the world and how you show up to the world, and that is it. Nothing else is your responsibility. If you are used to being a people pleaser, if you are used to thinking that it's your job to make people feel a certain way, that may be very, very difficult for you to unravel. But I do encourage you to do that, because it creates a whole lot of space within you to do more in your life and create more things in your life that you want to do, rather than worrying about things that you absolutely have no control over anyway. So I know I've got no control over the seers, zero control as to how they're seeing me or how you're seeing me right now, right? And what you're doing with the power of thought. So however you're seeing me now, or however you saw any of the summit presenters, or anyone that comes in your view, your worldview today, it's totally through your power of thinking and how you're using thought. And whether you're paying attention to judgments, whether you're paying attention to insecure thought, habitual thought, totally your choice. But seeing that that's just one option. And when you step away from that, you then allow space and create space for a whole lot of new options of thought to come through. And that's pretty cool. I really, really would love you to take away the message that the only thing that is in your control is to show up to life to your fullest. That is your responsibility. The only enemy out there is in here. And the way I see myself and what I do to hold myself back, not what anybody else does. So all you need is one word: willingness. And if you follow me on social media, you know I talk about that word a lot. In fact, I have it written on behind my computer here. Willingness. There's two words I love: willingness and curiosity. I've spoken about curiosity. But when I said at the start that lack of confidence often shows up as a lack of willingness, of being willing to do what matters, well, if you want to start stepping forward into your true nature and being the full, vibrant, confident woman that you are, you need to be willing. You need to be willing to try something new, to act, to step away from your habitual mind, and to do what matters regardless of the feeling that is going on inside you. A willingness to do what's necessary to get your dream, even when it's not easy, but especially when it's not easy. Why should it be easy? Life isn't easy. Things that matter, things that have been incredibly challenging for me have been the most freeing. Confronting my illnesses, changing my lifestyle, having a divorce, having 5 children, doing my business, doing these summits. None of it's been easy. But why should it be? Why do we have to look for ease? I know it's part of the human experience to want that. And we look for comfort all the time, and we look for the easy path. But it's not the path that gives us the richest life. I can tell you now it's not. And if we can confront and be willing to embrace the difficulties in anything that we want and anywhere we want to head in life, life will just change infinitely, and nothing else outside of you will have to change. It is just about your willingness. So are you willing? Are you willing to do what matters, to get where you want to go in your life and with your health goals and with anything, whether that's in your personal life, your professional life, the things you know in your heart that matter to you? Are you willing to do that? That's where you've got to be. And then to act. So just to finish up with a few final, I guess, helpful, practical ways that you can start to move beyond a feeling, start to act, start to move beyond intentions. Intentions, as I said, are not enough. We need action. You need action. You need to do something different if you want to get somewhere different. We all know that quote, but it is so true. And it is just your attention to habitual insecure thought that is stopping you getting where you want to go. Be present in your day. Notice when your mind is taking you off on a whole lot of thought trains to nowhere. And it's like a hamster wheel. It's the same ones that come up around and around and around. And we either want to run away from it, we want to avoid it, or we numb it with food. That's another human behavior that most of us are really good at. We don't like discomfort. Now let me share with you where that's coming from. Because again, that's going to help you to understand how to overcome it. So, as human beings, we can only work in this one way, right? Here's my writing. Of course, I've got a pen that doesn't work very well. Thought. We live in the power of our own thought. We live in the feeling of our thinking. Anything you are feeling in your body is coming from your own thoughts, right? It's not coming from anything out there. It's not coming from what anybody says out there. All of those might trigger feelings in you and thoughts in you, but everything you are thinking is coming from thought. The thought creates the feeling in your body. You might notice the feeling first because you may not be consciously aware of the thought, but feeling is thought in action. That's what you're living in, right? So if you're feeling insecure, it's because you're focused on insecure thought. If you're feeling scared, you've got fearful thinking. If you're feeling happy, you've got happy thinking. If you're feeling loving, you've got loving thinking. If you're feeling angry, you've got angry thinking. The more you can become aware of this thought-feeling connection, the freer you're going to be to step beyond it all and to act and to step towards the life that you want and the goals that you want to achieve. Because it's from this feeling that we act, our behavior, right? So we have a thought that says, I'm not good enough. That creates a horrible feeling of insecurity inside, and we run away or we avoid. We don't act, right? We see that we don't have to pay attention to that thought, and in its place comes a new thought that says, I'm going to give it a go anyway, and I'll see what happens. I'll take it one step at a time. So that creates space for a new thought that says, I'm going to act. Different feeling, moving forward. Having the fearful feeling, but still moving forward to create different action. Feelings get us into trouble all the time. So confidence isn't a feeling, motivation isn't a feeling. Feeling that we're not good enough, feeling stress, bored, unsettled, angry, upset. All of this is what leads to many of the behaviors that we don't want to do anymore, that don't get us towards our health, that are not really creating the life we want. They feel good in the short term because why? They relieve a feeling. They relieve an urge. But knowing that they're not taking you to where you want to go in the longer term is where you get to take back control and where you get to see you have so many more options than your limited habitual brain is telling you, that is trying to just protect you. It's trying to stop you from changing because change is risky. Remember that video in the start? If we stepped away from the tribe and tried something new, we'd probably be killed. It's not like that now. We have to adapt to the modern world, and we absolutely can do it. And all that it takes is for you to see that you don't have to pay attention to all those thought stories. And my book is about that. And transformation to me is not, it's not about changing. It's about just letting go of all the things that are in the road, of all the things that you took on because someone told you that was you, or they did some personality test on you and they said, oh, this is you, this is what you can't do what you can do. And your parents said, no, you're not good enough to do that. You've got to let go of all of that and know that you absolutely can be whoever you want to be. And you can show up to life in any capacity that you want. And it will feel bloody amazing if you start showing up from your heart and you're coming from love, not fear. Fear, protection, love, freedom, infinite possibilities, connection, being with people and allowing them to be who they want to be, being responsible for your impact, being responsible for how you show up, curbing your judgments. All of that impacts the way that people relate to you and whether they're interested in connecting with you or not. So look for opportunities in your day to disrupt your habitual patterns. Your behavior, it comes only from your thinking, whether you're aware of it or not. I don't care what anybody says, it cannot work in any other way. My kids can't create a feeling in me, no matter what they do. That is totally my responsibility. I can't put a feeling in them either. That's their responsibility. I spent 10 years drinking a bottle of wine a night and a 35-year emotional eating habit because I didn't know that the feeling I was sitting in was coming from my thoughts. And I hated it. And I had to run away from it. And I had to get rid of it. And I had to numb it because I'd had a really hard day and I needed relief. Human beings search for relief outside themselves all the time when the answer, the diamond, is in here. It's all sitting in here. If you don't like the feeling that you're sitting in, just wait. It will pass. When your thinking passes, and you don't sit there and do nothing while that happens, you act in alignment with your heart, with your values of where you want to go. So notice and name. There's that I'm not good enough story. There's that what if someone criticizes me story. Notice and name it. See it there. See, thank you. Thanks, the brain. It's just trying to protect you. You can't stop it. But you can shift your focus off it whenever you have the awareness that you can actually do that. That's why awareness is so important, because we can only see what we see. Most people don't know this. So you can't judge anyone for not knowing it. They just don't know it. But when we see it, when the light bulb comes on and we have that insight, it is this insight that leads to change. When you have insight, or like I did, that I didn't need to make myself feel better from an internally created feeling, that wine, it just didn't look like an attractive option to me anymore. That ice cream or that chocolate, I didn't need it to feel better because I knew that I would feel better on its own. Once my thinking shifted, I would feel better, and I did. But I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And if you're going to step forward and to change your life in any way, particularly after this summit, which I really hope you do, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You don't have to fear it. So what? It's not hurting you. It's coming from your thoughts. It cannot hurt you. The only thing that can is your action from that thought. But that's totally optional. You can't change the thinking that comes into your head, but you absolutely can decide what you want to act on. That is your choice, whether you've been thinking it for your whole life or not. That pathway, that habit, it's like a pathway in the bush, right? We decide not to walk on it, it's not going to grow over overnight. So you can't just decide, no, I don't want to do that behavior anymore. So stop coming up, brain. Stop telling me to do it. No, that's not how it works. This is why people get into trouble. They don't get where they want to go because they focus on the behavior instead of understanding it's from coming from thought and focusing on the thought. And you don't have to shift it. You don't have to get in there and mold it and retrain it and CBT it. You don't have to do any of that. You just got to see that, no, I don't want that one anymore. And I'm just going to do something else until it passes. And that uncomfortable feeling in me that can be heart palpitations and anxiety and tenseness, that's all coming from my thought too. And that will pass once my thinking passes, and maybe I'll go for a walk, maybe I'll ring a friend, maybe I'll have a bath, maybe I'll read a book or listen to some music. Maybe I'll do an endless array of other things while that passes. Every time you act on it, it strengthens. Every time you let it go, it weakens because the brain's like, oh, you don't need it for your survival, because you don't. Just noticing and naming allows the separation. That's what you're after, stepping back. In my book, I talk about imagining your thinking is a whirlpool. If you're in it, it's pretty hard work to swim, right? You got a lot of stuff to wade through. And it's very difficult to have perspective. It's like you're in the weeds. If you can step back and create some distance between that habitual mind of yours and all those stories and all those thoughts, and you can stand on the edge and look at it, just doing that is going to allow you to see and to the choice that you have as to what you act on. Those first responders, I call them, are the habitual ones. That habitual reaction when something happens, when you have a feeling or someone offers you something or your kids do something or your partner does something, there will be habitual reactions. But you know what? There is no rule as to how you need to react in anything. And the minute you decide that you're going to wait and see what else is on offer, that's when you will start to be flushed with a whole lot more choice. And that is freedom. That is freedom. I'm going to stop because I might get emotional because I can't tell you how much it's changed my life. It's all connected. It's all connected. But I want you to have the confidence to live your life and to make the decisions you need to make for you. Not what other people want for you, but for you. You are in control. You are in charge of your life. Nobody else is going to do it for you. You must do it yourself, and you can do it yourself. And you have everything you need inside of you to do it today. You've just got to step away from all the thinking that gets in the way of you believing it. You don't have to feel it. Remember, don't wait for a feeling. You'll be waiting forever, and you'll wake up one day and you'll be like, my life has passed me by. Do not let life pass you by, no matter where you are right now and how old you are right now. You are here. You have today, and you absolutely have so many different opportunities for you know, to make it the day that you want it to be. Can't thank you enough for being here. I really hope that was helpful. If you are watching this on the paid version, please comment, let me know what you saw in that. I think you probably want to watch it a couple of times because I'm sure there'll be stuff in there that you won't see the first time. That's how it is. We're all like that. We're all like that. And be hard on yourself. Stop being kind to yourself. You are absolutely doing the best you can with the level of awareness that you have. You are doing what you can do to see. You are doing how you are always trying to protect yourself. You can't not do it in any other way as well. But just know with awareness and insight, you will see more. which will allow you to create and be and achieve and do whatever it is that you want to do in your life. Thank you. Bye.